talk to me about your earliest memory of your dad sharing his experience with you.
You know, that's a great question. My father, when I was young, did not talk much about his experience here in Greensboro. Oh, is it working?
You have a mic.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
your father didn't talk much.
So he didn't talk much about it when we were youngsters. And it wasn't until one day I remember we were home and I was out in the yard playing, and this lady came up to the house, and I'm like, she looks really familiar. She looks like the lady that's on TV that we watch. And it was Barbara Walters. And she was coming to do a story about the A&T 4, and I guess it was Daddy's turn. So they came to our home, and I was probably, I don't know, I couldn't have been any older than 7 or 8 years old. But I remembered that. So then I used to start asking, why would that lady want to talk to you? And it was at that point he started to tell us the stories. And then as we grew older, he told us more and more.
Yeah, how did he describe those first, impressionable years for you then?
Yeah, well, he described it as us, my brothers and I, having opportunities that would not normally be afforded to us or weren't afforded to him when he was our age. So for example, our love for going into a restaurant and sitting down eating in any restaurant we wanted to was something he could not do as a youngster. And he talked about how he really wanted our lives to be better than what his was. And he wanted us to have every opportunity. He wanted people, all kids of color, to be able to have an opportunity to be able to get a good education, to be able to have a great job, and be able to buy a home and be able to take care of themselves. And he didn't want any barriers. So that was why he decided, he said, that it was something that he needed to do, which was to sit down at that lunch counter to make a stand against injustice.
How did you receive those, first stories about it?
Well, I guess I would say initially I didn't understand. I'm like, I don't understand any of this. It doesn't make sense. But as you got older and you begin to read and be able to comprehend a little better, then you do have a better understanding. And so now as an adult, I have a true appreciation for it because the vision of those four four teenage boys on February 1st, 1960, has lived and has allowed the offspring, the children and our children, to be able to have opportunities beyond my father's wildest imagination. For me to live in a city where he sat down at the lunch counter 65 years ago because he couldn't sit down at the lunch counter and be able to eat a hot dog or have a cup of coffee. For me now to be in the same city and be the president and CEO of the United Way of Greater Greensboro is something I know he never would have dreamt about. For his children to, be Morehead scholars, his grandkids to be Morehead scholars, you go to Ivy League colleges. One of my nephews is graduating from Stanford in June, and had a niece that just graduated from High Point University. And so, the kids and the grandchildren are doing well. And so he would be very pleased.
Who could imagine this legacy of
Yes,
his,
yes,
right?
that's exactly right. So we talk about a legacy, that's a legacy. And so what I feel like is our job to create the next generation's legacy. So it's our job to go ahead and set the tone for the next generation, and hopefully our family can continue to build on that.
You talk about that scene at the counter, these young men,
Mm-hmm.
freshmen in college.
Mm-hmm.
What do you suppose gave them that courage to take that kind of stand at such a young age?
Quite frankly, I think they were just so young, they were dumb. And they had no idea what they were doing. But my father told me that wasn't the case, that they really were willing to give their lives. He said they were willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. And so he said when they left the campus that day, he didn't know whether they would come back walking like they left or come back in a wooden box. So fortunately, they came back walking.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Growing up then as an activist
Mm-hmm.
and an advocate's son,
Mm-hmm.
how does that shape your life?
I think it's shaped my life in a way that I have no way to run from it. I mean, it is ingrained in me to do what I can for my fellow man, to be helpful, to speak up when you see an injustice, to sit down, stand up, shout from the mountaintop, whatever it takes. I have a responsibility to be a voice for the voiceless, and so I live by that creed. I live by people treating each other fairly. I believe in equality. I believe in inclusion. I just believe that everyone on this earth, no matter their color, deserves a fair shake at life.
You think on this 65-year anniversary that he would be proud of what his legacy leaves, and not at the school, but also the country?
Oh, I think for sure. I think for sure, no doubt about it. I mean, so much has happened, since he died back in 2014. But I think if you look at some of the things that have happened on a national level, he wouldn't be very happy about, perhaps. But I think if he looks at the work that he did within our family, I mean, he really, really positioned us to be the best people we can be, and to be able to have something that we wanted to offer to society and something we wanted to offer the world.
Obviously still tied to Charlotte.
Right.
What can we say about, the McCains in Charlotte and how he loved being there and calling that home after
Well, you know
graduation?
what? I've left Charlotte in 1983, but Charlotte is still home to me. I absolutely love that place. My very dearest friends are still there, and so we stay in constant contact. Got very good network, family and friends. I grew up in a neighborhood where we all are like family. And so I'm thankful for that opportunity to be in Charlotte. I love the way Charlotte's grown. I love all the opportunities that exist in Charlotte. So you never know. Maybe after I retire, I'll come back home.
Okay, very good. What can you say that we don't know about your dad?
I would say that my father was a very brilliant man, very strategic in his thinking, and my father was purposeful in everything that he did, very intentional. But my father was also very stern and very focused, and wanted us to be very focused. And so he didn't play much. My mother was an elementary school principal at Long Creek in Charlotte for many, many years. So my father was a disciplinarian, this strong guy from Washington, D.C. My mother was this Georgia peach, very down-to-earth Southerner. So it was a great mix. So we had the good side and we had the bad side. But we met somewhere in the middle, and I think the result of that has been that they raised three really good young men who have now all grown to be believers in the fact that we're all uniquely suited to make a contribution in society. And it's up to us to determine what our contribution will be. My mother and father never told us what we must do. It was up to us, but they told us you must do something. So we're all doing our own stuff in our own way.
Yeah, perfect.
All right.
I know you've done this ceremony right here
Yes.
many times.
Yes.
But when you see this ceremony again, how do you feel? What does it make you think about when you see this?
Well, when I come here, it's almost like my father's present. So sometimes especially if you come here at nighttime, it's a very beautiful setting. The light shines up on this statue. So it's like it takes you back to February 1st, 1960, perhaps. So when I'm here in front of it, I feel like my father's spirit is here with me. I feel like he's speaking to me and saying, "Hey, I'm proud of you. Thank you for continuing this legacy. Continue to do the work that you do. Continue to do work you do, and thank you for honoring me in this way."
Very good. You see Mr. McNeil?
Yes,
You
yes.
guys
Yes, we're all like family.
Are you?
I mean, those are my father's best friends, and so he loved them, and as a result, they loved each other, and all of the family is intertwined. So it's like you mess with one, you mess with us all.
Family's family.
That's right.
Love it.
All right.
Very good.
You got
that on you if it's okay?
That's fine. Okay.
Just finished up. Let's
Okay.
go. It's
All
10
right.
o'clock.
Okay. All right.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
All right, Fred, get behind. Chip, let's do it.
Let's go.
Where is Joe Jr.? Where's Joe Jr.?
Right behind
Oh.
you.
I am a senior history education student and February 1 scholar.
And what did it mean to be a recipient of the February 1 scholarship?
It meant everything to me. A&T was my dream school. It was the only place I applied. And once I got in, the first thing everybody asks is, how are you going to pay for it? And I was grateful that this brand new scholarship program was created, what felt like just for me, and I was able to get funding to study education and do what I wanted to do.
And what did you learn about A&T, the A&T 4 that maybe you didn't know before?
I think the first thing I really had to realize once getting here is it started with 4, but it took a whole lot more. So it started with these 4 students that we celebrate all the time, but it took a coalition and community engagement and unity and leadership to really bring it together. And it took consistency over months and months.
Yeah, and so, what we don't realize so many generations now is the movement that they helped start. As a younger person, what does that feel like to you?
I feel like it's really important to recognize the role of these student leaders, to recognize the role of these people who were students on the very campus where I stand now, and they changed the world with a seemingly simple action. And it's easy to, in today's society, to think what they did was simple, but it was so courageous and it was so decisive what they wanted to do, and they really changed the world. And because they did it, I can.
That's right. And so what do you want to do moving forward in your place in history?
So I hope to continue to impact the education system, increase historical literacy, and influence conversations on policy and community development across our nation.
Very good. What were the qualifications for the February 1 scholar?
February 1, now it's been 4 years, so don't mind if I get something slightly wrong, but it's academic excellence, a high GPA, advanced courses, it's community service and engagement, it's leadership, it's a commitment to continue that work once you get to A&T, and a commitment to stick it through for 4 years.
Looks like you walked the path.
I tried my best to.
What did you study again?
History education.
All right, and you are getting a PhD. What are your plans?
My plans after graduation is to attend graduate school and continue my studies in education, policy, and history so I can continue making these changes.
Good luck, Jaden. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right, John, talk to me about the significance of this building becoming a historical landmark. What a distinction.
That is a very huge development for us because we've been working on that since 1992, 1993. Something that should have been so easy was quite difficult. But in 2015, when we were added to the Civil Rights Trail, the U.S. Civil Rights Trail, so that we could qualify to be on the list that would go to Paris, to UNESCO, to become World Heritage Inscribed, we had to come back and revise that application and start working through it again. So Professor Harris, our principal scholar, and I started working on it, and ultimately we'd get a couple of more consultants to work with us to bring home the bronze that will go on the front of the building. It is very significant, and today, to have General McNeil to walk back into this building that is now recognized at the highest level for the work that they did as college students, young college students. It's one of the most powerful things that I could imagine.
Yeah, major feather in your cap then, right?
In many hats. I generally don't claim credit for anything, but many hats, yeah.
And overdue, obviously, for decades.
Yes.
And some sounds like red tape and all the
There was a lot. Some surprising things that we discovered as we were moving through it. But we kept our eyes on the major focus, and that is we need to meet that highest level in this country, and so the Department of Interior has finally agreed with us. It came as a surprise to us, but it's quite significant. As we continue to move forward toward World Heritage inscription, as a site of social conscience that most of every continent already knows about. When you're in a foreign country, people know about Greensboro because of this place right here and the actions that took place, the nonviolent actions of young high school and college students. It makes it even much better to teach from.
And we're seeing a lot of school buses. And
Oh,
what
yes.
are the students? What do you think is? What do you hear the buzz from the students? What their takeaway is when they leave here?
It's quite interesting to see the students come off of the buses and not knowing fully what they're going to embark upon. But once we take them through the museum and teach them about our 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution from 1868 and what it means to be an equal citizen in society, I think when those students get back to our front lobby, they are transformative and different people at that point. And we've heard from many schools, many educators, to tell us about how their students write a little differently, speak a little differently in their classrooms, and what they've learned. I've received piles of thank yous and letters from students, but it's even more significant when you look up on a Saturday morning and here they come with the rest of the family. That happens quite frequently. So,
A powerful
yes, it is.
testament to this
Yes, it
building
is.
then.
Absolutely.
On this 65th year anniversary and looking forward again as a whole to American history and moving forward, what is the message that this building symbolizes and the events that took place here?
There is so much embodied in a space like this, a historic building, a museum, a site of social conscience. Museums are keepers of memory. So at any point, you can walk into a space like this. Our older generation in their 70s and 80s, they experienced this very room that we're standing in very differently than someone in their 40s, their 50s. Students who are in elementary school, learning about discrimination for the first time, learning about what it means to be a citizen, a person of equal standing, they receive it very differently. High school students, when they're studying U.S. government, English composition, a lot of English composition classes that we receive through here, it's quite interesting to observe how they're composing about what they've learned here. So we need spaces like this for the long term, into the future, as teaching institutions, and that's what we are. We're not here to shame anyone or point fingers. We're here to educate willing minds about a turbulent past that we've dealt with as a country that we should never want to return to, and what it's going to take for all of us working together to solve some very vexing social issues.
Speaking of teaching, I did not know that this space was laid out a little bit differently, and the islands
Yes.
and how things change. We all know about February 1. When it started integrating months later, talk to me about how this space changed.
Sure. It was sitting just like this from 1960, or from the time that the lunch counter was first opened, up until 1963, when Woolworths would undertake to renovate the lunch counter. They added 4 additional islands to accommodate more people, because everybody wanted to come and get a 5-cent cup of coffee, a 10-cent Coca-Cola, or a 65-cent turkey sandwich. So that's America. That's America. We all sit down, talk to one another, build community, and feel comfortable together. That's what this place represents. So no matter what comes at us, we always have these touchstones that we can refer to and say, that was a moment in history. And thank God Earl Jones and Skip Alston had a good insight to preserve a space like this so that it would not be torn down, but used as a museum for many, many years to come. I think that it's having a significant impact. And when we had a group from Moldova here recently, they asked us, can you conduct these kinds of tours for students in our country? And we said, yes, yes we can. So we're working on that, because I think that there are many teaching moments from the very first gallery to the end.
Very good. The space that we stand in front of, explain this space.
Sure. This space behind me is a replica of the entrance to the Greensboro Transit Station, where African Americans had to enter public transportation systems or go to get their driver's license, enter a colored entrance versus the front door for all persons. So we use this space to remind people you're getting ready to go through the maze. When you walk through our galleries, it's a maze of spaces that you navigate through, pretty much like African American people and people of color. It's not just African Americans, but people of color, Asian, Jewish people, in many cases, Greek people. They had to navigate these same spaces because they were not looked at as white. So when you go through this maze of galleries, there's a lot to learn about segregated playgrounds, how the church was so instrumental in educating people, the schools, Brown versus Board of Education, we teach folks about. direct action. Nonviolent direct action is what an institution like this stands for. How do we bring about social change and keep people alive, keep them safe, and respectful of one another's rights?
What else do you want us to know about the international?
One of the most important things that I would convey to any group of people is if you are a grandparent, bring your grandchildren. Walk through a space like this with your grandchildren and engage them in healthy dialogue about who we are and where we've come from. Many of them walk those shoes and they can teach their young kids a lot to take into their adult years. They may not hear it all from you or from me, but when it's your grandparent teaching you, what better gift can you give a younger person? So we invite people to go to our website, sign up, come down, take a tour, whether it's an individual walk through on your own or join a guided tour of the International Civil Rights Center.